Hi there, in this video we're going to look at exporting our Illustrator files, getting it ready for print or maybe digital distribution. So maybe looking at emailing it as a PDF or having it downloaded from our website. We're going to wrap that up into this course. Specifically web export we'll look in the next video, so jump to that one if you want to. All right, let's get started. Okay, you can have any document open, but in your exercise files, I've got exporting print open. Okay, and there's two things we need to quickly check before we create our PDF, which is going to be our probably most useful exporting file format. And we need to check both the color mode and the raster settings. Basically, color mode is RGB versus CMYK. We went through this in proper detail in an earlier video, so check that one out. But let's say I'm going to a local print shop, okay, the one on the corner, and they're going to run me off 100 copies or 1,000 copies. It's best to send them in RGB. Okay, so be working from the beginning in RGB. You can switch it later on here, but RGB is going to give you a better result. Just does from those kind of smaller print shops. Now, if you're working in a big kind of offset printing, they typically call it. Okay, so it's a big printing. They're going to print you 10,000. They're probably going to want CMYK. Okay, but have a look at that video earlier on. But this is where you can go and change it. The next thing to double check is under Effects and Document Raster Settings. In previous tutorials, I said, hey, lower the resolution, okay, in here because it makes your computer run a whole lot faster while you're working. The cool thing about it being in Illustrator is you can yank it back up to 300, like super high quality. Doesn't matter that your machine's going to run a little slowly now because we're at the final hurdle. So just make sure it's up at 300, click OK, and then we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Save As. All right, so in here, what we need to do is I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to put it in Illustrator files, and down here where it says Format, I'll lift it up, we're going to use Adobe PDF. Okay, let's click Save. There's basically two things you need to do. You need to drop this down and say, I'd like to use high quality print. Okay, that's just a really good default. Okay, you're not going to run into any problems with that one. The other thing is to turn this off. Okay, this on basically means that the PDF you're making is basically a full working Illustrator file. And we don't need that to go to the printer. Okay, we've got an Illustrator file already. The biggest problem with it is that the file size can become huge with this left on. So if you do find yours are really big file sizes, PDFs, and you're like, typically these should be smaller, it's because this has been left on. It'll say this preset up here has been modified. It's because we untick this. And then we just click on Save PDF. It warns you, you've turned that thing off. Don't worry, it's okay. All right, you wait for the PDF to be produced, and hopefully now on my desktop, where are you desktop? In my files, there's this print file. It's quite small, okay, is 0.5 MB, and yeah, that one is ready to go to print. And because it's RGB, that one there can be downloaded from the net as well, okay? So my file size is really small. If you're doing if your document's a lot bigger and you do need it to be smaller for a website or an email, you can do some slight adjustments. Let's do another Save As. And I'm going to call this one low res. Okay, so it's going to be smaller. It's not going to look bad. Okay, but what we're going to do is go into, you can start with high quality. Okay, that's for print. Okay, but we can go to this one called smallest quality. Okay, and that's, smallest file size. And that's going to be a good one for web. Okay, and that's all you need to do. This one by default has that turned off. Okay, and we're ready to go. This one's probably not going to be much smaller. Okay, because it is just really small to start with. Let's have a little look. Our low res one is significantly smaller. Okay, it's about 1/4 of the size, and that's a whole lot more important when you've got a file that's maybe say 20 MB. Okay, 1/4 of the size would be awesome. So yeah, those how to go to a commercial printer. Okay, and this one how to go to maybe a website version or an email version. One last thing you might do is say you're not exporting for, I'm going to close that down. I'm going to open up the original AI file. Okay. And what we want to do is say we want to send this off to somebody else to work on. You can do, or you've got a colleague and they want to work on the Illustrator file or you want to archive this. Okay. What you can do is you can go to File and something called Package. Package, what it's going to do is it's going to copy any links, so any images that you've linked in here. It's going to copy any fonts used, except for Typekit. They protect those ones. But let's say you're using your company font and you need to send it to someone and they don't have the font. It's going to go in there. And where am I going to stick it? I'm going to stick it on my desktop. I'm going to stick it in my Illustrator class files. That'll be good. Okay, and it's going to go into this folder. Okay, am I going to call it folder? Yeah, why not? Click package. And it says, be careful, fonts are going to be copied in here. Make sure by law you're allowed to use them. Yes, sir. I'm going to go OK. It's done. Let's have a little look in our folder. It's created this folder, and the cool thing about it is that it's put in my AI file, any fonts that are being used in it, okay, Gaudi old style, and any links. Okay, there's my desk image. So the cool thing about that is I can now zip that up and say compress. If you're on a PC, you right click and say, I think it's send to zip, and you'll get a zip file. I can email it to someone or back it up or put it on a disk. And it's just a good way of making sure I send the AI file, but also includes the images, also includes the fonts. Yeah, so it's ready to go. All right, that is getting exporting from Adobe Illustrator to PDF. Let's get into the next one where we look at more web-based exports. All right, see you over there.